Yes, yes. Good evening. If we could take our seats, please. Welcome to the October Milwaukee Area Woodturners meeting. My name is Kevin Sigworth. I'm president of the organization. First order of business is the financial and membership report. Edwin?
Good evening, everybody. So financial report, we have currently $12,279. 9,524 of that is club funds, and we have 2,755 of funds from the Bardenhagen auction. So got lots of money to start using for that youth event that we want, that youth program that we want to put together. As of today, we have 100 and everybody is paid up for 2025, and we have 3 prepaid members already for 2026. So good job, guys. I can start taking payment for 26 today if you'd like. $35 for a single and 50 for family. 50 for a family membership. We have one guest today, Dave Dorgan. Please help me welcoming him, Dave. And that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Edwin. Ken, do you want to talk about the Milwaukee Area Woodturners t-shirts? That sounds better. I think you can hear now. Yeah.
Closer. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Stay close to my face.
I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm gonna be turning in the order for t-shirts next Wednesday. So if anybody still wants to sign up for one, let me know and you can put your name on the list. We're also for the members that aren't here and want to do it online, you can go to the website and sign up for t-shirts. Tell them what size you want and how many, and I'll be able to add that to the list and turn it in. So, and one thing, it's nice to have t-shirts like this when we do our club events at different shows, and anybody that's going to be working the upcoming show, if they would like a t-shirt, that would be a good time to have it, and it's good advertising for our club. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Youth Turning Program. We are still looking for a leader. So what I am looking for is someone interested in. Awesome. Thank you, Daryl. Okay, we have a leader. We will move. We have several people that have volunteered to be on the team. So let's talk later and we'll get this started. Awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. Yesterday, Tony and I were at Empty Bowls demoing. We had the Milwaukee Area Woodturners, the big version of that, flying, and lots of little kids there. And the little kids got the biggest bang out of it. They, one of them even came up and said, "Can I have some of those shavings?" Yeah. Yeah, right. But they were just fascinated watching the chips fly. So we had a lot of fun. Empty Bowls raised over $61,000 for their Nourish Milwaukee food pantry. So it was a good event. We talked to some people that might be interested in coming to a meeting at some point. So Emil was there, took good care of us, got us t-shirts and food tickets, and was working hard on the event. So it was an awesome event. We had a good time, and everybody there had a good time, and it was for a good cause. The next public event coming up is the Milwaukee Holiday Folk Fair, which is November 21 through 23 at the State Fair Park. And you've seen something come out from Ron Zadroik on signing up for that. The flyer, if you forgot what it looks like, it's over there on the plexiglass shield. You could take a look at it, but just reach out to Ron if you'd like to sign up for a time slot. over the 3 days. He needs help setting up, tearing down, and doing demonstrations. And if you're interested, you can sell your work and keep all of your proceeds as well. The only cost to us is the electrical charge, which is $150. So we'll take care of that. And if you want to know how it goes, Randy Schilling is here somewhere. Randy, yeah, raise your hand, stand up. Randy has done that event for many, many years, and he's the person who kind of got us connected in with it. So he can tell you all about it if you're interested. Open workshop day is coming up October 18th. Talk to Tony about that. We will have a show and tell as soon as I finish with announcements. We will have a wood raffle. So Dave McBride in the back, Dave, raise your hand, is selling tickets. We have a $25 Woodcraft gift card. We have 4 $10 craft supply gift cards, and we have a pretty good assortment of wood. Anything else back there, Dave? Oh, some books. That's right. So Tom Hipsack brought up some more books from the Hank Bardenhagen estate. They were given to us, and we're going to auction some of them off. Not auction, raffle. Oh, pardon me? That's all okay, all wood. Awesome. Okay. Did you all, you should have received an email that Tony would have sent out from an invitation from the Badger Woodturners. So an invitation to the Steve Sinner deep hollowing demo. It's October 31st. It's in Madison from 1 to 5. It's a Saturday, I believe. And I believe the charge for what you're shaking your head. It's a Friday. Oh, thank you. It's a Friday. Okay. And I believe it's $20 for us. It was $10 for their club members, but $20 for us, which is still not bad. Tom.
Following Saturday, he demonstrating at the open house for Robust.
Correct. So Friday they're doing the deep hollowing demo, and then the next day they'll be at Robust in Barneveld, doing something similar, I would assume. Yeah, right. Yes. Next meeting, November 3rd, Mark Trenier will be turning a nativity scene. For those of you who came here tonight expecting to see Mark, he's had about a COVID, so we swapped Mark with Mike. So tonight we're going to have Mike talk about tree physiology.
And how it relates to turning.
Well, of course. Of course. Of course. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's do show and tell. Let's try to go in order with the snowmen and the trees, and then we'll just go down the table that direction. So you're Greg's first. Okay.
I go. Using this. That's jumping. Yeah.
Oh, if you don't mind, I put it on your piece of wood. My wife does a lot of craft fairs. She does beading and stuff like that. She's been adding some of the stuff that I make. So she wanted something Christmassy. So I thought, what the heck? I'm going to try a snowman. I've never done snowman before. She painted the eyes. We're still working on the nose. And same with the trees. There's just some scrap wood I had laying around. Some of it's spalted maple. This was spalted maple. Some of it was from just weed branches I had laying in the yard. Just turn them, and that's what I got.
So last meeting, we talked about selling at craft fairs. And I sounded off about a little mushroom that I make, and this somebody wanted me to make one at our open workshop day. So that's a mushroom, takes about 3 to 5 minutes, 2 tools, a skew and a good sharp spindle gouge, no sandpaper. Turn these out by the dozen and pay for your craft fair booth. It's branch wood.
Is a lady that you have hope that's not for her.
You could start, Kevin and I, yeah, we're trying to figure out how to get an American Beauty at the open house or at the empty bowls for next year. So we haven't figured it out quite yet. So anyway.
My granddaughter take care of
Yeah. Yeah. These are pendants. I make a lot of pendants. I had a lady want me to make one out of holly, and I didn't. I had no idea this holly has a quarter sawn fleck in it, just like sycamore. It's really pretty, and you wouldn't get very many pieces out of the branch that look like that, but I got a couple. And this is dogwood, and the thing about the dogwood is it didn't absorb any of the oil I put on it. And then last time we were up here, I was grumbling about the shape of my acorns. You probably didn't pick up on what I was grumbling about, but I've been working on this style some more, and I'm a little more happy with the proportions now that I'm getting on these guys. Next.
Okay, who's next? We've got some bowls here. Pretty green. Hickory, it looks like.
well, I got nobody else.
Go ahead. Light up there, folks. You're next.
Well, since I retired from my vacuum trucking business, I got a little bit more time, and I really got into making these bowls of courage boxes. I really enjoyed doing it, but I don't have a big enough lathe, and I don't have big enough hunks of wood, so I've been making these out of vertical staves. 8 vertical staves, 3 inches wide, 22.5-degree cut on them, bundled up and glued together. But it's I think next. Do you have a date for me next year or not yet?
Next summer.
Next summer, I'm going to do a demo on this, and I'll bring up mock-up models step by step. It's really simple when you get into it, but I bored a hole in this top piece to come up and seal a bead, and I did, but I didn't make it big enough, so I got to take it back home. But I'll get it back up here. My favorite wood is mesquite, and it grows freely out in Arizona, and I have a winter home out there, and so whenever I find fallen wood out there, I salvage it. It's extremely hard, but it's got a beautiful grain pattern to it. And if you can find a little bit of early wood in your stave pieces, this is a piece that I cut off the bottom. You can, if you work on, and I'll demonstrate that when I do my demonstration at closing up that joint, just like segmented. You can get there's places here where you can't even tell where one melds into the other. So, but anyway, that's my little stick here. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I started getting bored. I started making small bowls for empty bowls. And then I started turning some of the ash that's been laying around. And I decided that I would try some dyes. So I bought some trans tint and some art wax and ended up with these. And I mixed that dye with water instead of alcohol because the alcohol was too hard to control. And I got a better color out of the water tint. And this is dyed twice before finishing, and this is dyed twice as well. Then I thought, well, I might try to mix a couple colors together to see how that turned out. And it turned out with this. It's more green than blue, but it turned out real good. This is a piece of box elder. These are 2 ash pieces, and then the empty bowls here are box elder and then a walnut bowl. So we're just having fun. That's all it is.
What's the other times that we've seen? Yeah, if you look at this one, this one's got this.
Okay, this one I need to set down. Um, a couple shows. Oh, that's a couple of shows ago, somebody, I don't remember who it was, had turned the tower top, so I had to try it, and I have some success. This is the wobbler, and I don't know why that one wobbles. This one's the wood seems to be balanced, but this one turns a little bit better. It was kind of a fun little project. Could do a lot more with the stand, and could really really embellish that with a little bit of work. This is was a little tiny burl about the size of my hand that my wood trimmer friend gave to me, and he said, "You think you can do anything with that?" And so it's just a maple burl. It didn't look like much when it was turned, but I put some blue dye on there, and it really picked up the color. It needs a couple more coats of finish. And then Mike, maybe you can verify this. The same tree trimmer friend gave me this about 3 years ago, said it was butternut. It had two pieces of it. It turned like butter. It's almost like balsa wood, really light. And you had to be careful bringing the tool into it because it wanted to catch. But it did turn out really, really beautiful wood. So a couple little projects this month, not too much. So.
So I haven't been turning much lately. Unfortunately, my workshop has also started overflowing with lumber that needed to turn into useful projects. And I had a piece of maple sitting around on my shelf that was about 7 inches tall and probably 11 inches around. I thought that's not a good proportion for a bowl. So I decided I would try a platter. So I cut off about an inch and turned this platter from a neighborhood tree that got cut down. This neighborhood silver maple, I believe. So that's it.
Like this stuff.
So I thought I'd challenge myself. And I saw someone do a demo on this, and this was green wood. I was able to do it out of the crotch. Trying to find where in the wood the crotch was, so you could see it, was kind of a challenge. And then it was green and kind of wet, so you had to be careful that you weren't taking your knuckles off, as with any square thing. But thought that was pretty cool. And then this is I got a Facebook marketplace. Someone was getting rid of free wood. Come and get it. And one of the things they had was some burls. And so I tried to cut some pieces apart. It's pretty rough condition. But this was just a piece I ended up cutting up and said, what the hell, I'll try it. And I thought it turned out really cool. Just different shape. And then this is just one of the early black walnut bowls that I think I got from Tony, the wood. And it was the first time I turned the tenon off the bottom. And so that was another thing that was different to try. But that turned out pretty cool also. So.
So I got a lot of black walnut. I mean, that's all I got basically. But since during a storm, a bunch of our friends' trees blew down, so I got a bunch of. The other day I was turning and we had slabbed a couple up with sawmill and thought I'd try a little bit bigger bowl, so I tried this and I get it all done. And then I get a little catch on the edge because I didn't like how it was around the edge, and it just cracks a little bit. And then as it's been drying, it's been moving more. So I might do something with it, but otherwise it's just a crack bowl. I mean, they're still cool, but another black walnut chunk. This was actually this other side. So it's like this. Then I like doing different sides so it looks a little different. But and then I think this was like um hmm, it was some fruit tree, but I made a top, which works pretty good. And then I had some waste behind it, so I figured maybe I'll make a ring. So I just had this behind it, and then that's all I had. But
Cool.
I brought this in because I thought the figure in the grain was really interesting and it was sort of tied in with tonight's presentation. This is a piece of maple firewood rescued from my brother-in-law's wood pile. It sat in my backyard for a year on the ground, and I finally got around to turning it, and it's a really pretty piece of wood. It's in the end grain, it's spalted both on the outside and on the inside. And on the long grain, it's like tiger striped. So I thought it was a pretty piece of wood. Anybody else that we didn't get to on the show and tell table? No? Okay. I have just one more announcement then. So we're looking to add some people to the AV team. We were just thinking that like if I get sick or I can't make a meeting, there's a lot of people here that could run a meeting. But for the AV team, if they want to go on vacation or don't want to go to a meeting or they get sick, we don't have many people to back them up. So I'm asking if anybody would be interested in joining the AV team. We could use backup camera people. Great, thank you. And we could also use people to learn how to run the AV Zoom system. It's all fairly well documented, and I'm sure the guys that do it now could help you. Jim, thanks. Okay, great. We got a couple of volunteers. Awesome. Anybody else? Feel free to volunteer. I mean, the more the merrier, and then many hands make a light workload. So appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Yes, Bob. Yes. Blaine. Good. All right. So tonight's discussion presentation is on tree physiology. So Mike Wendt is a arborist and an instructor at which technical college was it?
MATC, Milwaukee.
MATC. So some of you may have participated in a couple of big tree droppings that we did, which were a lot of fun. We took down a walnut that was about that. Well, Mike took down, we watched. It was a lot of fun. So I'll turn it over to Mike. We'll take a break somewhere around 7:30. And what time is it now?
5:02.
Between 7:30 and 7:45.
Okay, well, we'll speed it up. All right. So we're going to talk about wood physiology. So you can probably start the PowerPoint. I'm going to work off of a PowerPoint for the first half. And then all the samples that are in the PowerPoint are up here in front. So if you have specific questions, we can talk about those later. So we'll start this right at the beginning of the PowerPoint. Just a note, since we're getting that set up, my experience is that once the growing layer that puts wood onto a log stops growing in midsummer, that's when the bark tends to stick. So, so I can imagine that if a tree felled in late summer, if the tree fell in late summer, you could probably still have the bark stick if you turned it and dried it. Is she talking to me? All right. So, so I'm going to talk about wood physiology and wood structure. Hopefully there's some things that will help you know more about what we're looking at when we're turning pieces of wood. We're going to be beginning with structure of the wood itself. Yeah, we've had that running just before, so.
HDMI3. Down to the bottom that's cut off. Is it one of those I can use? So it should work. Which one works with the sets out?
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah. Same for
Oh, we just had it running a little earlier. Well, since he's talking about that, so well, I'll just actually start talking about wood itself. So on a when you're saw through a wood, first thing it goes through is bark, and then inner bark. And the reason the inner bark is important is that's the layer just under the bark where the sugars from the leaves flow down, right? Sometimes it's spongy. And then once it gets through the inner bark, then you hit the cambium. And that's the growing layer. And how thick is the cambium? All right, it's only a few cells thick. It's only a few cells thick. And the cambium is responsible for creating the wood to the inside and actually phloem to the outside. So that's the part of the tree that stays alive that enables it to grow larger in diameter. Then just inside the cambium is phloem, I'm sorry, is xylem. So all of your wood on a tree is xylem. The outer layer is sometimes called sapwood. And since a tree cannot maintain all those cells, it converts some of that sapwood to heartwood on the inside. That way, it doesn't have to maintain all these live cells. You know, the bigger they get, there's an exponential curve of how many cells it has to maintain as it gets bigger. So that's why trees slow down with age, because they have more cells to maintain. So, so you'll find that almost all trees put on a heartwood, and what it does basically is store those cells in a condition that prevents decay. All right. So, so that's one way that trees grow. The other way, of course, is longitudinally and through the tip buds. All right. We'll be talking about 3 different types of growth buds, but I don't have a good stick to show you. But there's basically 3 different types of buds on trees. There's the terminal bud that tends to shoot up a new leader. There's lateral buds that grow out, and those get locked into the wood of the main branch. And the third one are adventitious buds. Adventitious buds are the ones that ride along on the cambium. And then should there be an injury and the changes in the auxin of the tree changes, those start growing. So we know what happens. You lop a big branch off of a tree. What happens on that stub? You'll often get these sprouts that grow. Those are adventitious buds. And they're connected to the last layer where they start growing. Right? They're not connected to the middle. Why do we need to know that? If there is a branch union that you think there may be figure in it, but that branch actually took off growing as a adventitious bud, there won't be much at all of figure in that because it's not locked in all the way to the middle of the trunk. All right. How are we doing on this? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, since we're talking about branch unions, this is awesome. Great job finding yeah, great job finding the figure in this. What do y'all call that figure that's in a branch union
Flame.
or crotch? I usually use the word union. I call it featherwood because it always looks like a feather, but I don't know what you call it, but so I'm always looking at finding that. So I have a slide at how to try to find that, but this might help. When you have a branch growing on a tree, am I in the, oh, we don't have a camera on. So this is the leader with the head of side branch to it. Whenever that develops, you'll end up having layers of the branch wood and the trunk wood growing at different times during the spring when those layers are being formed. And that's what forms that figure in the middle. So you'll always know that the figure is right behind this ridge, and we call that a branch bark ridge. That's the ridge that's that's this raised ridge between the two. All right. So when you're cutting up a log, then you'll want to try to preserve that line on one side and the other. So if you want that on the bottom of your bowl, for instance, you may want to make this part over here, the top of your bowl, and you would cut it in this, and keep that plane intact. Now, sometimes it's a crapshoot. I have a bowl or two that I've made that just about made it. Like this one, I was a little bit short on the branch bark ridge and that feather wood. But this little bit of black locust, I tend to hit it just about right. So and you can see that feather, and so, all right. All right, so that's a little bit about trying to find that feather wood. I had some other examples of that. Since we have a camera on, oh, so this is the type of union that we like to, as an arborist, we want to see that on our trees, nice U-shaped unions, because those are very strong. The other type of union that we get are V-shaped, all right? And these tend to have this lip on the side, but that's not a branch bark ridge. That's just where the two halves are trying to come together. There's bark pinching between the two. We call this included bark. I thought all branches came with bark. It's included. But what they mean is it's stuck between the branches, all right? And so these rip out really easy. From a pruning perspective, you have to be careful if you have this type of branch union wood in your piece because it's not connected. And so that will look like on here, this is a elm that I turned, and you can see right here, it's actually, I think there's a hole in it, but that's where branch bark was pinched between two different branches. And on the other side, it continued. So this whole piece here was a little shaky because of that pinching bark that was in it. So, yeah. In fact, if you feel this, you can feel the one side dried a little bit more, and there's actually a little bit of a ridge on it. So, yeah, the worst thing, have it fall apart while it's turning. Well, yeah, that's true, but sometimes trees just have enough of this side connection to it. But when they are equal size, that's when you run the risk of having it split apart. When one is smaller than the other, the risk decreases greatly from a pruning perspective. So. Yeah, you can. Yeah, actually, that's true because this is an open wound, and water can actually stay in here and stay moist. So this is. So now think. Oh, okay. I am missing some samples. This will work. All right. So another thing we want to know about trees is trees do not heal. Trees seal. All right. And they cover up their old wounds. Here's a case where there is a pruning wound on an ash tree. And one of my favorite things to do is cut these open and just see what's going on. All right. So here we see that there's an old pruning wound. You know it's a pruning wound because it's straight. Branches don't break off perfectly straight. And the tree has grown around that. All right. That will be there forever. You know, as long as it doesn't decay away, then it may disappear. So trees seal, they grow over their wounds. So what is a wound really? I think a wound is a hole in the cambium. We talked about that tree with this growing layer of cambium on the outside. And when there's a wound, it's basically those cells are dead. And now it has to grow more wound or wood to cover over it. When they grow that wound to cover wood to cover over it, that's called wound wood. And so here is a sample of a black locust that had a wound from my finger to my finger. And it has since started to grow over. And this ridge you see here is called wound wood. Now, a tree can stop decay because the way it grows. All right. So it has 4 walls to stop decay. And we call that part of the theory of compartmentalization of decay in trees. And so what happens is that as soon as a wound occurs, different phenols and things are reacting inside those cells, especially in the sapwood, because that's real active. And the cells, each growth ring itself is stopping decay from moving in. That's wall 1, or that's wall 2. Wall 1 is actually the fibers. They kind of stop the decay from going up and down, and that's extremely weak. If you cut the long way through a hollow log, you'll see it's hollow all the way up the tree. That's because wall 1 is really weak. It can spread longitudinally easy in a tree. But wall 2 are each growth ring, and that helps stop decay from moving in. So you can see here, wall 2 is this little shading you see right in here. This is actually part of the heartwood, but that shading is all part of wall 2 stopping the decay from going in. Wall 3 are the ray cells that extend from the center out to the edge. And those are stopping decay from going around the whole log this way. All right. Those 3 walls are relatively weak according to wall 4. Thank you. Wall 4 is the new wood that forms. There's a barrier between the old wood and the new wood. And that's the strongest wall. So on this sample here, we can actually see a real slight line right along here and right along here. And those cells were laid down at the time the wound occurred. And so it's there's a lot of cork in that layer. And so it's very difficult for the decay to move from inside the wood that formed at the time the wound occurred into the new wood that forms later. That's why trees stay hollow for so long. Why didn't it just rot right out to the bark? It's because that wall 4 layer stops the decay. So an example of that. Am I missing a whole bunch of? Oh, here it is. This is one of them. So here's a basswood. This is an extreme example of wall 4. It's right here. All right. And it used to go all the way around here, but the whole inside decayed away. The wound was from here to here, and basswood decays really quickly. So all of this wood decayed away, but wall 4 stayed intact to the point where the new wood that formed started curling around. All right. It curled all the way around, and now we have what's called ram's horns. All right. So this isn't the easiest thing to turn, but I did it. And so this is a turned woundwood bowl. All right. And the tree's oriented this way, right? So the bark's here and it goes around this way. And so this whole middle column decayed away, the new wood curled around. And so I turn this, and sometimes I'm not very smart. I didn't realize how that, well, duh, it's not connected here. It's not connected here. So when I was polishing it, you turn it up a little, and this thing flew apart in 2 pieces. Now, some of you are going, what a rookie. What? Well, now I know. Now I know. So I just glued it back together because it was so much work to do this. But anyway, but that's a great example of wound wood and how the tree can protect itself from decay using that wall 4. Right? So it's often one of my favorite things to do is take a look at a piece of wood, and I don't know if this is a good place to stand to zoom in on this, or which camera. Okay. All right. So this is a piece of honey locust. And so what's going on with this piece? So you can see that there's a little dark circle here, there's a little bit here. This is actually just where borers actually kind of got in there, but this is the original trunk right here. And there was a wound from here to here. And you know that because this starts to curl around, the grain curls around. And if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I did this at home. It took 10 years for this wound here to close over that wound. All right. And you can actually trace that back by each of these lines. Then this little line here, right by my finger, that's where the 2 lines, just like that basswood, the 2 bits of bark are coming together and pinching. Eventually, it's sealed together and started to grow across without even knowing there was a wound. But again, the wound's still there. It just grew over it. Over on this side, it's kind of interesting. Here's another trunk or branch. But when you count the rings, it's much younger than this one. And it seems like it started right on this growth ring back here. And that was probably a water sprout or a sucker that grew and started becoming bigger in diameter, but it's much younger than this. This has many more years on it. Also on this sample, you see these real faint lines that run. There's one there. There's one here, here. Those are adventitious buds that are riding along on the cambia. All right, so those are the ones that, should there be an injury, those will start sprouting and growing into water sprouts. All right, sometimes that adds interest to your wood. You can't really plan to know where those are. So, all right, so looking at history is always kind of fun for me. All right, now another thing that happens is when you're looking at burls on trees. Here's an example of a burl. A friend of mine just gave me this burl. He said it was from Cornelian cherry, and it's not. It's honeysuckle. But anyway, you can see the grain is all curls and different swirls. That's what burls should look like. But sometimes you look at a tree and you get this thing growing on it, and you think, wow, there's a really neat burl. But this happens to be from a wound wood covering an old wound. And how do we know? You cut it off and looked on the inside. Well, I don't recommend this if it's not your tree. But there's an old branch on the inside. Okay, there's branch wood on the inside. So that's what a wound wood burl looks like. So I had one and I decided to turn it just more for demonstration purposes. So this was growing on a oak. So it had a big bulge. I took a little more out of the middle here because there was so much decay on this piece. And then I carved the edge off thinking that I would make a candle holder or something out of it. But this is the original branch that the tree was growing over. The point is that if you look at all of this curled grain and everything, they really can be some very interesting pieces. So I've taken some of these large wound wood pieces off of oaks, and cut them flat, and they make actually nice handles because they have really nice curled grain to them. Right. So that's a wound wood. I guess you call it wound wood, but it's not a burl. So here's a burl on maple. So a friend of mine gave me these. So this one I sanded down, and on sugar maple, you get these little black flecks in there. Don't exactly know what's happening, but if it were a oak burl, you'd probably see a lot more curling grain to it. So I thought that since we're talking about burls, I would put this one on the table. So if anybody's interested in turning a nice sized maple burl, that'll be back on the wood table. All right, let's see. Don't know if we can zoom in close enough. This is part of looking at the tree structure earlier. Right, that's not too bad. That's what you want?
It's the same rock for everyone else.
It's blank. That's why I can't tell. Yeah. So what are you saying? So where are we at with where?
Now we're saying the same thing.
Okay.
It's blank.
So it's everybody else at home, I suppose. Let me go to some bigger samples first then. Well, let's just work on, I'll just look sideways here. All right. So here's a sample of bur oak, and little hard to see unless you came up close, but all of these lines that go, sorry about the ink, really shows up on that camera. But from the pith out, you'll see these streaks, and all trees have them. But on oak and sycamore, they're a lot more pronounced, these ray cells. And if you take a look, the ray cells actually connect into the phloem. If you look closely, you'll see that they go right into the phloem. And so when the sugars come down the phloem, they actually get distributed through the ray cells, and that's what helps nourish cells. And that's why tree trunks store nutrients. It's how they do it. Just a little, are you going to ever use that? I don't know. I just thought it's kind of interesting how some of these, you'll see on some pieces that have bark on it where the ray cells go right into the phloem.
That's what we're looking for on white oak, right?
Yeah, all oaks have really good ray development. Usually you can identify oak just by the rays. The other way you can identify oak if you have a cross section is the pith. It's star-shaped. Anybody know that?
No.
Yeah, star-shaped pith. Sometimes you need glasses. But yeah, this one has a real good star-shaped pith. It's only about 1 millimeter, but and that's because oaks have a branching habit that every bud repeats every 5th bud down. So when you look down a vigorous branch of oak, there'll be one at 12 o'clock, the next one's at about 4:30, whatever, and the next one's at about 10:30, and then 2. So it forms a star when you look at the buds going down, and every 5th bud is lined up on the same side of the twig. All right. So we call that a phyllotaxy of 5. Right. Alders have a phyllotaxy of 3. Every 3rd bud is lined up along with each other, and their piths are triangular. Some ash have square piths, like Fraxinus quadrangulata, blue ash. Blue ash has a square pith, right? But sure enough, it has 2 buds and then 2 buds and then 2 buds. It doesn't always work that way, but yes, sir. The what?
I always thought the heartwood would.
That's an excellent observation.
You're saying that the rays at third bunch in sap.
Yes, the rays that will be in the sapwood would be the ones that are still operating. The heartwood is actually, we don't call it dead. we call it non-functioning. Because like a mouse trap, you can still react, but you can only react once. And that's the way heartwood works. So when a decay organism invades the heartwood, there's all these chemicals that all of a sudden release their shot to help stop the decay, but then that's it. So it's really not dead. It can still react to heartwood or to decay, but only once. And then decay goes crazy. So, all right. Yeah.
I don't know the difference between a burl and a woundwood on a tree that's.
So that I was thinking of that, and I wasn't gonna try to explain it, but a burl is usually much wider and flatter, and woundwood tends to be more of a bulb that comes out if it's on an old enough tree that's been trying to grow over it. I have a couple of woundwood lumps that have grown over on black cherry. You know, if it's old enough, it'll just kind of keep trying. Crabapple does the same thing, but it has to be really old enough because it takes a lot of years for it to grow up and over that stub. But when you cut it open, you'll find the remnants of an old branch stub, whether it broke off or somebody pruned it off and left a stub. Yeah.
What causes?
Burls. If we knew everything that causes burls, we'd make them on trees, right? You know, stick this thing in there and all of a sudden 5 years later, the burl's growing, right? But some of them are caused by fungus, some by bacteria, some by just the way the tree is. That sounds like, sure, you don't know what you're talking about. And some of them we just don't know. So most of the burls I don't know. Now, a burl and a gall are different. Galls are caused by fungus. A black knot on cherry, that's a gall. You know, and if it's on the trunk, it almost can look like a burl, but it'll have a lot of decay in it and a lot of pockets, where a burl is pretty much solid, curly wood. So, all right. Other questions?
Is cherry more prone to have pearls? Because I see a lot of cherry pearls.
Yeah, I've seen a lot on sugar maple and Russian olive. Russian olive has beautiful burls. So I cut down one for a friend of mine, Tom Cronschnabel, and he doesn't know how nice of the wood I got from. But well, I gave him a bowl with the burl, but the burl wood on it's one of my favorites. It stinks when you turn it. But Russian olive, most people think they're weeds, especially when they're half dead. But look at the value of any lumps that are on the trunk. I didn't realize it till after I helped him take his tree down. I'm thinking, yeah, that looks pretty good, you know? So I took a whole bunch home. So, all right. What else can I talk about before questions and answers? Oh, spalting. So we just somebody had talked about spalting that maple. Was that you, Kevin? Yeah, that tree was on the ground for about a year, you said?
We did a firewood pile, and then I got ground for 6 more.
Okay. All right. So I had this beautiful curved piece of pine that was a branch that came up. So I cut it off, brought it home, sliced it in half, and made 2 curved benches out of it. Well, I had to prop it up, so I took a couple of maple logs and did it. You know, propped it up. And finally, it's like, well, that bench is rotting away. So I went to take I looked at this maple thinking, I wonder if that's spalted. And I cut open, and that's what it looked like. So really quite only about 2 years, and I ended up with spalting like this. And that's just leaving it on the ground. And I've experienced an elm that a friend of mine took down next door, and I left that on the ground. And when I cut that up, that was already spalted within, I don't know, 8 weeks or 8 months. So just by leaving stuff on the ground, you might get spalting. I know some species just doesn't spalt. Somebody told me that elm didn't spalt it, but I had spalted elm. I think one of the prettiest ones is spalted walnut, where you get streaks of a whole different color. So
Like, I was trying to make some wood spalt. Does it work better to set it on its end on the ground or on its side?
I set mine on the side. So do you know what spalting? We didn't talk about what spalting is. All right. So spalting is when fungus invades the log and it's different individuals fungus. And what they're doing is they're claiming their own turf. And what they do is they set up these boundaries, and especially when they run into another fungus. And so these little black lines is pretty much I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And so what they're really doing is it's kind of like a battleground, right? And so that's why it's so interesting. No two pieces are ever alike. And so this is my neighbor's tree that I got from him, a piece from his sugar maple. And what I really like about this is, this everybody says, wow, that looks like the world, some kind of map. But all this subtle different shades in here, I think that is just incredible. So spalted maple it's just basically something that's on the ground for 2 years and it's probably looking pretty good.
Does largely maple grow in certain part of the country or is it all over the place?
This type of spalting,
No, largely maple.
large-leaf maple or big-leaf maple is a Western species. And so we don't grow that here. I don't think it's hardy here because it's a like Western Oregon and Washington. So I don't even know what maple it's similar to because maple, like sugar maple and paperbark maple are very similar. Red maple and silver maple are very similar. So, there's different kind of subfamilies, and I don't even know what that's like, which one that's similar to. So I don't know what the wood's like. Do you know what it's like? Okay. All right.
Well, I might know.
Yeah.
It's not like three months
Yeah, they're very common as an understory species out in Oregon and Washington. So, mhm. All right. Let's see. Oh, one last thing about, there's probably things in the PowerPoint that I'm missing that I was going to mention. This is a root ball from a yew shrub. I think I brought this in about a year ago. A friend of mine gave me his root ball, but he was kind enough to power wash almost all the dirt off of it. And because of the interest in doing something cool, even if I ran into a couple of stones on your turning tools, you kind of have to sharpen a little more often than normal. But this, you can do some very interesting things. You can see all the pinching bark between all of those different roots as they were growing. And one little side note is that roots do not have pits. There's no pits in roots. I don't know why, but that's one way that you can tell if somebody gave you a piece of wood that they said, this is a root. It's in your sewer or something, well, if there's a pit in it, then they're lying, right? Because then it's came from above the ground, not in your gutter, in your sewer. So anyway, there's some more things I want to talk about inside the video, but we're not being able to get that broadcast. So I think maybe now we should probably take a break.
Awesome.
And we can do some questions then. Told you I could get done by.
Perfect. You're like right on.
All right.
Great. Hi.
Turn on the audio.
Okay, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, so when buds are not connected to the middle, those are caused by adventitious buds, and they ride the cambium out, and then they sprout when there's a wound. And so when you're looking at a piece of cross section, if you notice that the bark, that branch doesn't seem to connect to the middle, just like that previous slide. Here's a close-up. You can see right here that this bud started growing at about 5 or 6 years after it began, after this tree was here. And that's when that started growing. So that's like a water sprout. But from the outside, you may not even notice. It looks like just a regular branch, right? But the bark is actually quite a bit younger than this. Anyway, the point is that you're not going to get a lot of figure in that type of branch union because it only had a couple of years worth. You might get a little bit of figure. Well, on this one, you won't get any because this branch up here is dead. Okay. All right. So we talked about U-shaped unions and V-shaped unions. And we discussed all of this with the bark pinching between them. And so this is a cross section from the opposite way, and you can see how deep that bark pinches. So again, we end up with these voids in our wood when we're turning, if that's been an old wound that's been covered over. Sometimes you come across that. I just go with the flow, fill them with glue, and I'm good. So, all right. So this is a diagram of how we used to believe, and I still believe this a lot, of how branches and trunkwood tissues interlock at branch unions. So these, I guess I should use this as a wood class. So this is the trunkwood, this big oval that surrounds the stem, and these smaller ones, that's branch wood. So typically in spring, the branch wood grows first, and then the tissue of the trunk closes over it. And that happens year after year after year, and that's what gives you that pattern of a figure inside of a branch, that feather wood in a branch union. So we talked about this a little bit. That is the branch bark ridge, that oval. And that's that plane is what you're trying to go after when you're cutting up a piece of wood. How did I get to the end? That's not the end. Let me go back here. Excuse me for a second. Let me jump down to where I'm supposed to be. I don't know why I got bumped back. Almost there. Oh, been there, talked about that. Been there. All right. So if those of you who've ever split wood, if you ever go near that branch union, that's the kind of grain pattern you get. And when you're cutting up a log, look for that branch bark ridge. That's this yellow dotted line here. That's, you'll see. Did I touch, is touching that? Okay. Okay, so that yellow dotted line is the branch bark ridge, and that's what we want to preserve. So I cut off the side branch parallel to that, and then I left a bigger chunk on the trunk side. And that chunk, then you round out, and that's what I would turn. Anybody have any other suggestions on how to capture that? All right. This we talked about. Let's see, did I cover everything? Talked about that old wound, about 10 years to cover up. Talked about that pinching bark between that, and that was actually a water sprout. I talked about those, the the latent buds riding out the cambium. But then we talked about this one here. Let me go back a little bit. On this sample of a, again, wall one is the all the fibers going up and down the trunk. That's really weak in stopping decay. Wall two are the growth rings to stop decay. They're kind of weak, but stronger than the vertical lines. Wall three are the ray cells. They're a little bit stronger, but the big way to preserve trees is the wall four, and that's the barrier zone that they lay down. Now, the point I was going to make is that that's very strong in stopping decay, but it's very weak in structure. So your wood will crack along that, called a ring shape, and you will get a piece flying out of your bowl really quick if you're not aware of that. So here's an example of I just looked at my wood pile, and I see that I had this piece of, I don't know what it was, elm or something. And there's this circle where you can see a crack kind of in a circular pattern, and it's on the exact same growth ring all the way around. That's an example of a barrier zone. And I'd be very careful about having that as part of your bowl when you're turning, because that will crack. And it might fly out. You may glue it back in. So again, the wound wood I talked about growing over a stub. Now, obviously, this wouldn't be a burl. Wait a couple of 20 years, it might look like one if that branch fell off. So, all right. And we talked about that burl or the wound wood looking like a burl, but it really isn't. But it does have a grain pattern that's very circular that you could use for turning. And then the burls themselves are always solid with a lot of curling figure inside them. So, boy, by the way, I think it's extremely unethical to cut a chunk of like this out of a tree, by the way. I've seen some posts online where it's like, what should I do with this burl I have on my tree? And everybody says, God, it's like, well, you know, that bur oak might be 180 years old. The burl will stay, you know. Just put your name on it. You know. Call Mike Wendt at this number when you're taking this tree down. So, again, sugar maple is real popular and for burls, and so is Russian olive, I think. So now, question.
I think that if you cut the burl out of the tree, it wouldn't hurt the tree. And you're saying it's not the case. Leave the tree standing, cut the burl out.
Yeah. Okay. The worst wound you can make on a tree is on the trunk, because you will get decay organisms enter the tree, and then it's just a downhill spiral from there. All right. Now, if it's on a side limb and you made a wound on the side limb, the tree has a way to actually kind of wall off that limb a little bit. But once you make large wounds on a trunk, that's the worst thing you can do. And cutting a burl off, it will be a big wound. That'll be a big wound. So, all right, now let's talk a little bit about reaction wood. I mentioned it a little bit up here. Tony had wanted me to mention a little bit of that as well. So reaction wood happens when a tree wants to maintain a branch in a certain direction, but gravity and wind and everything else is pushing against it, or it's pushed out of its normal position and the tree wants to try to bring it back. That's reaction wood. On conifers, it puts wood on the top of the branch on conifers, it puts compression wood. So it develops all of this extra wood on the bottom of the branch that helps to hold it up. And on deciduous trees like oaks and maples, whatever, it puts tension wood on. And so it puts wood on the top that actually helps to hold it up, right? Now, whether it's a conifer or a deciduous tree, the reaction wood is going to dry in a different rate as the rest of the tree. So on this slide here, this was borrowed from Ed Gilman in Florida. The conifer is putting all this extra wood on the bottom, and that's where you get this extra tension compression. On the deciduous tree, on the oak, it's actually putting tension wood on the top. In both cases, you may see extra wood on the bottom, but that's just because deciduous trees kind of fill it in on the bottom. But the point is that if you're going to be turning and you're seeing this where the pith is not in the middle, you can expect that there's either going to be compression wood on the bottom if it's a conifer, or it's tension wood on the top. And that's going to be a reason why you may end up having more warping than normal. So you may want to consider when you're going to say divide this up for a bowl, you want to still kind of make it go through the pith and just keep all the tension wood at the top and all the or compression wood at the bottom. You know, keep it all in the same area. You may have less warping. It's kind of hard to estimate compression wood or tension wood because we're not always sure what orientation that branch was if you get a piece of wood. You know, you don't know if it was an upright stem, which doesn't have hardly any of that, or if it was a lateral. So, and then I just wanted to mention a little bit about chatoyance. That's that shimmer or that change in appearance on a bowl. That when you change the orientation with the light, all of a sudden it kind of flips like between a negative and a positive. You know what I mean? I think we're all familiar with how that figure looks. And chatoyance is something that you can't predict in a piece of wood, but once in a while when you have it, it's like, wow, that was really cool. So here's a hackberry bowl that just happened to have these beautiful stripes in the side. And that's just a slight change in grain direction. So, all right, we talked about spalting. One word of caution with spalting, spalted wood. Anybody here have farmer's lung? What? I have farmer's lung. I got it from mulching moldy mulch. And the more you get exposed to fungus spores, the more you get susceptible to it. So so say I go down in my shop and just sand this thing off and didn't put my mask on, in about 4 hours, all of a sudden, just like clockwork, I ended up feeling like I have the flu. You just get run down. You can hardly, you get a headache, your body aches, just feels like you caught the flu. So be very careful about not wearing a mask when you're you shouldn't wear a mask all the time with the fine dust we do in our shops, but especially when you're working with fungus, because the more you end up getting exposed to this, the more you can get farmer's lung. And so last week I was out for 2 days, just trying to recover because I forgot to wear my mask. So that's how much I appreciate, coming here to talk to you guys. And went down for the team. So, all right, a little bit about fungus. There's 2 different major groups of fungus that affect our wood: white rot and red rot or brown rot. So brown rot usually gets real blocky and usually reddish color, reddish brown. And white rot tends to be more whitish. The difference is the white rot fungus you can often see these tiny little mushrooms on the side. A great example of white rot is on this sample of this this stub here. You can almost flick this stuff off without any problem. So this is white rot going on here. So both of them, one takes out the lignin, the other one takes out the structure of the cell. The result is they both wipe out your strength of wood. So when you're talking about taking advantage of spalted wood, you wait another year and it looks like this whole section over here would just be wiped out in here because it's starting to get soft, right? And that's a white rot starting to break it down. So you can't wait forever for spalted wood to be actually useful for turning. So, but I mean, come on, that looks great. A couple of things. We talked about that star-shaped pith on oak. What about chambered pith? Black walnut or white walnut or English walnut? All the walnuts have a chambered pith. In fact, I learned hackberry has it, but you need a hand lens to see it. What about a big spongy pith? Looks like a what? It's not a worm. So here's an example. Big spongy pith. All right, so that's Kentucky coffee tree. It's almost like sumac in a way. All right. But all the walnuts have chambered piths. So if you're not sure and you happen to see a little bit of the pith and it's full of these little compartments, that's walnut. It's the only one with chambered piths. And of course, the star helps you identify it as oak. So, all right. Was there a question? Something? Oh, okay. All right.
On the apple tree, we have tenants that have pimples. They rip the bark off the tree. We sprayed it with pruning paint. Is that tree still doing?
The pruning paint won't really help or hurt. Probably makes it look better. Might make it taste worse. I'd probably spray it with hot pepper. Anyway, it depends on how much of the cambium they took out. So if they took it all the way down and there's no strip of cambium left up and down, then we call it girdled. But if there are strips of cambium, then it's okay. And it probably is going to live. If you have a wound like that, and you can get there right away, wrap it in some, it sounds funny, but plastic wrap. Because if we can keep the cambium, the cells that might be exposed, but they're still alive there, they may start building more phloem to the outside. And the wound will be greatly decreased. Okay. So just like buck rubs, you see a tree in your yard gets buck rubbed, immediately put some plastic wrap on it till mid next summer. So, because you might preserve some of the cells, but if they pretty much wiped out all the bark, it's pretty much gone. So, all right, questions?
Bird's eye pigment.
I don't know, and I don't think they know either. If they did, they'd inject these little maples all over the place and get curly maples. So just like the wavy grained maples and other hardwoods, they don't know what causes it. Some people can. They can look at that. There's a certain bark characteristic. I don't know what it is. I'm not more of a forester. Foresters might have that eye. So.
Going back to the spalted, if you have a nice piece of wood that's spalted like that, can't use it right away. You bring it inside, can you do anything to slow that down?
Yeah. Keep it dry. Keep it dry. Fungus needs moisture to spread. Once it's dry, it has a hard time spreading. So if you want to spalt it more, throw it back out in the moisture. So, yeah. So just be careful about stacking spalted stuff up against other. So if I put this board here, I had it in a bag because I want it separated. I didn't want this the fungus growing into the next against the next board, and that'll happen. So especially if it's moist. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Make a spalted tool like that. And you put the
won't say trash on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good, it's safe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That's a good question.
So you have to-
Well, if it's dry, the fungus will be inactive. And if it's behind a seal like this, I'm not concerned. I don't know if I put soup in here. You know, yeah, I recommend that all the bowls I turn. And I'm not good enough at finishes to know how to have food safe finishes. So I just tell everybody, I'll just put chips in them. So yeah, but I'm not concerned about that spreading because it's been dry a long time. Mhm. Yeah. Now, with insects, with having live insects, um, and I have powder post beetles, and so I'm starting to think, that heating it in the oven for 250 degrees for an hour or something, it might not be a bad idea on some of the stuff I'm turning, because I'm sure that some of this I know there's boars in here, so you hate to have worms crawling out on a gift that you just gave. It's just something that doesn't say Merry Christmas to me. So, yeah, yeah, it's like, what was that? Yeah. All right.
These are the dead branch in the center.
Mm-hmm.
I would get overjoyed by turning a piece like that. If I took it upstairs to my wife, she'd say, get it the hell out.
Oh, because why? Does it?
Just like she would like that contrast.
Yeah.
She got different ideas of what
Well,
the word looks like.
yeah, I kind of that just as I haven't turned one before, so I was thinking around with it. And so I wasn't really sure. You can see where the other point was sitting, and that's as close as I got. And it's like, I don't know what to do with this, but it really is a good demo piece to see what the tree was doing. All of this sapwood rotted away. This was all, so it was solid at one time, and the tree grew around it, but then the sapwood decayed away and all the heartwood stayed. And that's why there's this gap inside. So, anyway. All right. I'll be around for, one more question.
Seems to have a short shelf life compared to other trees.
Shelf like on the shelf in your shop, or
Logs waiting.
yes, yeah. It just because it's just like basswood, they decay very quickly. Birch, basswood, willow, all those soft hardwoods usually decay away pretty fast. Yeah, yeah, and it's all because of probably the chemicals that they have inside to be able to stop decay. They're just really lousy at it. So, red maple sometimes is in that category too. So, all right.
Question about sucker branches.
Oh, what's that?
A question about sucker branches.
Sure.
Is that branch joint strong? As strong as a normal branch, or is it weaker?
Technically, it's weaker. So when that branch first starts to grow, you can walk up and grab that water sprout and yank it right out of the tree. It comes out just like a little socket, right? As it gets older, it starts to grow more layers into the wood, and so it can last longer, or it gets stronger. But then it gets taller, so it might be weaker because now it gets up in the wind. So that's why we don't recommend topping trees, because the resulting growth is these water sprouts that eventually will often fail and fall off the tree. All right. But just because there's one up there doesn't mean it's particularly weak. But if your whole tree structure was designed on that one water sprout, you may have problems down the road. Does that make sense? So I guess the bottom line is, yes, technically they are weaker because they're not connected to the middle of the branch, so you don't have as many layers holding them together. So, all right. Anything else? Oh, we got an hour? So next time on this anyway, okay. All right. Do you want to? Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what, why don't we, I'll just, well, okay, what question do you have on pruning?
When's the best time to prune a tree?
How sharp is your saw? They often say the best time to prune is when your saw is sharp, but I prefer to prune in mid-winter, mid to late winter. And the reason is all your wounds are fresh and they're all ready. The tree is ready to grow over them and seal over. But that's a slight advantage over summer. It's a slight advantage over fall, right? If I'm pruning an oak, that sometimes it's hard to tell the live wood from the dead wood because the dead wood sometimes have dead buds on it and it looks like it's living and you can't really tell when you're up there. Then pruning in fall is better because you can see where all the leaves are and ones that don't have, but dead branches go like this, live branches go like this. So there's subtle ways to tell when you're up there, but don't prune oaks and don't prune elms in summer or in spring through fall. All right. So wait till mid-fall to, early spring because those you can transmit Dutch elm disease or oak wilt. So don't prune those at that. Other than that, you can prune a maple in March if you want. It'll bleed. Same with walnuts and birch. They'll bleed, but that's really not harmful. And just make sure that when you make your pruning cuts, you prune up to that branch bark ridge. Don't make them flush, all right? So if you're pruning this branch off, the branch bark ridge has an angle like this, and we want to mimic that angle in the opposite direction. So you come right up here outside the branch bark ridge, and you come down at an angle, all right? If it's a V-shaped union, so if this is your silver maple, make your cut way down here. How many people have autumn blaze in their yard? It's a disaster tree. You're gonna get it. Someday it's gonna go like this because that's what they do, right? They're gorgeous in fall. They grow fast. Great for that. But structurally, we hate them. And the nursery industry knows they made a mistake. So, but anyway, if this is a case and you're pruning one branch off, you start at that where you think it's connected and come down at a 45-degree angle. Not easy to make because you can't get your saw up here, so you have to cut from the bottom up. Okay. And if that's too much to take out to eliminate this defect, then prune one side way back. Cut it off to a lateral branch or something. So that's all part of tree structure pruning. You can always raise a tree up. People say, "Well, am I going to take off too much?" Well, unless you're going to make a palm tree out of it, no. So trees tolerate pruning. They tolerate root pruning. You got a root on the surface. If it's really bothering you, prune it off. As long as it's not like this, surface roots, because of roots grow where there's oxygen. And they're not going to grow down in a clay soil because there's no oxygen down there. So they stay at the surface and then they get bigger and they come up out of your grass and then you mow over them and you get mad at them. So either change it in a hosta bed or something like that, or just prune them off. All right. Turf you don't have to have your whole lawn in turf. So, all right. So what else? Other soapbox can I get on here? So, all right. Other questions? All right. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That was excellent. Appreciate it. Quick announcement. Ken has informed me that the t-shirts will be here at the next meeting. So if you've ordered a t-shirt by the deadline, yeah, that's the plan. We're planning on it. We'll have the t-shirts here. So for those of you that are going to participate in Fall Fest, you'll have your MAWT t-shirt to wear. Dave, you ready for the raffle? Yeah. Go for it. Yep. Sure.
That and everything.